Although my daughter says she keeps on she's always pointing out how I'm getting old, but in the same breath, how part of me is not getting old enough, which she says is my sense of humor, which she claims is some sort of schoolboy, 12-year-old schoolboy humor. And she thinks my stage name ought to be something like Poopy McButthole or something.
Poopy McButthole.
Yeah. Like,
actually, that
thanks.
would be kind of an awesome stage name.
Yeah.
Poopy McButthole.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is season 2, episode 36 of Shooting the Breeze. Tonight, my guest is Wardie Leppan. Wardie's a comic based out of Ottawa, Gatineau. You live in Ottawa. You live in Gatineau, but you perform in Ottawa. Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it right.
Yes.
I got it right. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I'm glad to have you here. So we performed on a show the other day on Saturday, an online show that was a lot of fun and very interesting because I'd never done a show like that, and I'd like to see more like that happen.
Yeah, that was neat because what they did is they had a live crowd, they had live performers, and then they had us doing it on Zoom. And it seemed to, they had a few glitches, like the reason we couldn't hear I heard the reason why we couldn't hear what the live performers were saying very well was because their mic was not hooked up to Zoom. And so what we were hearing was the producer's laptop picking up the sound from the stage. So
okay,
that was a bit of a bummer. But
because it was hard.
It's a great concept. Yeah,
the concept I thought was fantastic. Like there were more of us on Zoom, but Brent has this cute little club in Cambridge, and he had, I don't know, like a dozen people there, and there were 3 or 4 live performers, and he interviewed us in between sets, and it was really, really cool.
I found it interesting that nobody in Cambridge has to wear a mask and they didn't have a screen in front of the stage or anything like that. So I don't know whether they're in a green zone or whether they're just being naughty.
I'm not sure, but I did notice that the stage was nobody was close to the stage. People were a good distance from the stage, but it's true. I noticed they weren't wearing masks either. Maybe they're a bubble for all we know. They could be, since it was such a small crowd. Or maybe they were all
drinking and they didn't have to. Whatever, I don't know. I don't figure out all the rules. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, it was a really great concept, and I hope like more people can do it that way, because that'll be
because I think that's great. The hardest thing when you're performing comedy and you're not getting the audience feedback. I've been finding these online shows hard to do because you see a face of comics, a sea of comics, 5 or 6 comics on the screen and Zoom, and then nothing. You're hearing nothing except the odd giggle from the comics, but that's not like a real audience.
Exactly.
Most comics are thinking about what they're going to say, and they're not really paying attention to what you say. So, I really need that feedback so that I know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the downside I find of the online shows, and also you could have 20 people online, and like maybe half or more than half of them won't have their mics on. They don't, for whatever reason, they don't want to have their mics on. I understand not wanting to have their cameras on, but I try and urge people, like, please keep your mics on because we need to hear your laughter. We need to hear the reactions, and it's because that's a big component of what we do.
Yeah, and that's where you get your energy from too. And I found that in the UK there was a number of shows where they have these huge, great big screens, and they might have 50 to 100 people zooming in. And then they have, like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, they had people performing on a stage, but they were performing to a big Zoom screen.
Ah.
So they were getting the laughter and the that sort of thing, and you're prancing around on a stage instead of stuck behind a computer like this, So
exactly, limited to just in front of your camera. It's true.
yeah, and you
It's
can't
true.
move around and stuff,
Yeah, I think we're
But
going
I
to
think,
see a lot more innovation when it comes to Zoom calls, though. I think.
yeah, and I think there are other platforms that do things a little bit better sometimes, So I think there are going to be a number of different products coming out that might make it even better. But
Right, right, yeah, because I see it's better than nothing, but there is a large component missing, and it's
yeah,
that even though you can hear laughter, you could see people on the screen. It's two-dimensional. It's not. You don't, like you were saying earlier, you don't feel that same energy as when you're in the room with when you're in the same room with people.
yeah, and you can't interact really with someone in the front row or whatever, and or someone says something, you can't interact back. It's a little tricky. But
Yes, yes,
I'm just a little nervous of going back into the clubs just yet.
right,
Being an
right.
old fart, it's sort of a
Well, the thing is that, like, it makes sense. Um, just because comedy clubs are typically very close, very dark, like no windows, no fresh air. It's just, you know what I mean? So I
right.
understand people's reluctance to want to be there.
I think if
Yeah.
people wore their masks while seated, then they wouldn't be spewing out so much sort of aerosols into the air, when they laugh. But
That's
I know
true.
the clubs want people to drink and so on as well, So it's a tough one, but
Right. Because
I'll
I know
I'll
I've been
leave it to
trying.
the
Yeah, I've been trying really hard that when I'm just sitting to keep it on, because like I'd be
yeah
sitting and I have it off, but I usually have a drink or some food and stuff. But I've been trying that when I'm finished my drink or I'm not eating or something, to keep it on. You
yeah
know.
no, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I try. So
Oh
since
shit.
the pandemic started, have you been performing exclusively online, or have you performed in person at some point when we
Uh,
reopened?
During the reopening, I performed
Okay.
um,
So back in the summer.
uh, back in the summer, behind screens and things like that,
Mhm.
and that was okay. That felt good. Even a room of 50 people, you could really get a good feedback and have a
Mhm.
lot of fun. But
True.
I haven't gone back since after summer.
Okay.
In the fall, I started doing. I haven't done a lot of online shows either, partly because I find them, for the whole reasons we were talking about, not getting that
Mhm.
feedback and so on. But lately, I've just decided I've got to start doing more online shows just for the practice.
Right.
And I thought over during COVID, I'd be writing lots and lots and lots of stuff. But then you sort of feel like, oh, I've got lots of time to do that. This is going to go on for
Yeah.
a long time, and I just didn't have that get up and go to write, And I got lots of little notes of stuff that I'm going to work on, but
Mhm.
and and I'm I'm usually very organized, and now I haven't got it all organized nicely the way I want it to be, and able to
Yeah.
access it and so on.
Because I
So
wrote a lot at the beginning, at the very beginning, like this time last year, and then I just kind of stopped. And I find that the longer this goes on, the more disorganized I've become. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I used to have 6 or 7 sets all written out, typed out, and so on. And then I started adding bits and pieces and using bits from different sets and so on. And slowly, but then I've got a whole bunch of bits that I've never used, and I haven't sort of organized them into anything, because the trouble is my style is storytelling. So I find it's hard to cut and paste when you're telling stories. You
Yes.
can't take out bits and lose a thread. So I've got to try and figure that all out.
Oh, wow.
But being a real amateur at this,
How long have you been doing comedy? When did you start?
2017.
Okay.
I during 2017, I probably did about 12 shows until I figured out how you get onto shows and so on.
Okay.
And then before COVID hit, I was doing sort of like 10 shows a month sort of thing. So it felt that was a nice balance for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a while to figure it out, So I probably approaching 200 shows in total now,
Oh, wow.
Since I started, but not a lot, But it's probably closer to about 180, 175,
Okay.
that sort of area,
Yeah, that's still a good chunk. That's still a good chunk of performance. Yeah, I think I'm just approaching 100. I'm getting close to 100.
Yeah, but you when did you start?
I started September of 19, like a year and a half ago.
Wow, you really crammed it in. Every time I looked on Facebook, you had another show, and I thought, my God, you're energetic.
And then I'm like dead after. It takes me like 3 days to recover after.
Yeah,
whenever
I was impressed.
Show,
every time I looked,
like...
every time I turned around, there was another. You were doing another show somewhere. It was great.
Yeah, I did a lot.
What
online.
got you into?
Yeah, I did a lot online.
What got you into it?
What got me into it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd wanted to do it since I was a kid, but was just too afraid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was too afraid to do it, and then like a lot of big changes and losses happened, and I was like, nothing to be afraid of. Let me get it out of my system, sort of thing. And then I was hooked. Yeah,
that's great.
What motivated you to start?
I don't know. I really liked when I watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? The improv. I thought, oh, that looks easy. I can do that. So after I retired, I decided, well, I'll go and take an improv course at the acting company. And I found it damn difficult, and I really, it was fun, but it just wasn't me. And I wasn't that quick enough on the fly sort of thing. And then I heard the acting company, Pierre Bro, was going to put on a course. So I thought, oh, I'll try that. And I tried that, and Pierre was really, really encouraging me to take it seriously and to really go for it. So that sort of got me going. And he got me on a Wednesday at Absolute Comedy. This is before he was teaching at Absolute Comedy. And I did a Wednesday there, and it went really well. And I thought, "Ooh, this is fun! I got to do this some more."
Something.
Yeah, and then I got onto the competition. My second set ever was in the competition at Absolute, and then it was like, okay, now I got to do this. But then I battled to find how do I get onto stages and all this sort of thing. And that first year was fumbling around, maybe 12 shows, and then after that, I sort of found out all the ways to get on, and then there was a lot of fun after that. And the Ottawa community is so good, and so welcoming. It's a lot of fun, especially when I'm performing with comics the age of my daughter. It's like, and you forget the age difference. After a while, you just all buddies working on comedy, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. It keeps me young.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel the same way. Because although I'm younger than you, I'm older than most in the
Yeah,
community. Yeah, because I'd say I don't know. The average age would be like late 20s, early 30s. I would say the
absolutely.
average
I mean, they
age.
make a big deal when anyone gets near 30. Oh my
Oh yeah,
God,
they
you think
freak
they just
out.
got one foot in the grave, you know?
They're like inches from death. They act
Yeah.
like-
I think they're probably maybe there are not many of us over 50, you know.
Right,
Um,
right.
I think there's probably you could probably count them on one hand, maybe two hands at the
Yeah, I think
most,
we're
sort of
just
thing.
like a
No,
handful of
definitely not
us.
10. There'd be yeah, just a
Yeah, I
handful of
think it's less
us, you
than
know.
10. I would say it's less than 10 for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely less than 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a few
Uh,
more in their
I,
40s,
I,
but like over 50, yeah, they're very few of
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah,
We're enigmas.
yeah.
Oh my
I go,
goodness.
I'm in my 70th year. So sort of, I'm 69. So it's
You're
like,
69.
oh,
Okay. Yeah,
it's
I just
getting a
turned
bit close.
54. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, when did that happen?
Uh,
How did that happen? What's going on?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like I
I
feel,
think that,
young still.
well, it's funny. I've never felt my age. Like when I was 20, I was all worried because all of a sudden I was no longer a teenager and I had to behave. And my mom said, "Oh, that lasted 3 days." And then for years, I felt like I was 24 until all of a sudden at age 40, my daughter was born. It's like, oh shit, I'm an adult now. I got to behave. And, but those are the only two dates that I ever really, uh, ever made an impression on me. But after that,
Mm,
it's just I've never felt an age. I've never felt,
hmm.
well, now I feel the creaks and the crow,
Exactly.
the
I'm always in
medical
pain.
side, sort of yeah, yeah, all the
Something always
pains,
hurts.
that's a, yeah, yeah,
Something's always
exactly,
swollen or
exactly,
painful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I always feel I think my default age is like 34 or something like that. Like in that range. Like,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
always feel like I'm like in my 30s, you know?
Mine used to be 24, and now that I'm after my daughter's born, it felt somewhere in the 30s, and it never
Okay.
really changed. Although my
Yeah.
daughter says she keeps on she's always pointing out how I'm getting old, but in the same breath, how part of me is not getting old enough, which she says is my sense of humor, which
Hmm.
she claims is some sort of 12-year-old schoolboy humor. And she thinks my stage name ought to be something like Poopy McButthole or something.
Poopy McButthole.
Yeah. Like,
Actually, that would be kind of
thanks.
an awesome stage name.
Yeah, yeah,
Poopy McButthole.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So how have you been faring throughout the like lockdown, quarantine, and the pandemic in general? How has it
Not
been for
bad,
you?
not bad. Um, it hasn't been too bad. Just a bit boring, Um, in the summer, I rode my bike a lot. I ride a lot. Um, and my granddaughter was born in June, and so I get to see I get to see her a lot.
Oh, good.
They're just in Cantley and we're in Aylmer, so and we sort of kept it, even though we kept a very little bubble with my daughter, her husband, and the baby,
Hmm.
and so we see them a lot. So that's sort of been nice, but.
Oh, that's good.
My wife's family is huge. She's got six siblings and they all breed like rabbits and all the little rabbits are breeding like rabbits. And I mean, you have Christmas and there are over 50 people there, and
Wow.
it's great. But this Christmas we couldn't do anything, and everybody was moaning and, oh, we can't do
Mhm.
Christmas. And I was saying, it's just one Christmas. Don't worry, we'll be back, but that's been hard, but I think that's
Yeah.
hard for everybody,
Right, because everyone did Christmas differently this year. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We just stuck to the bubble with my daughter, and that's it. We just had to be very careful.
Hmm.
How's it been for you?
Up and down, up and down. It's been like I've been working from home since the beginning. So like has the isolation really gets to me from time to time, and
Right.
I just try to keep myself as busy as possible, to the point of I've gone too far sometimes, just trying to stay busy, where I drive myself like nuts and like run myself into the ground. But I found the last this last lockdown hard.
Yeah,
The one right
yeah, it's a
after
lot
Christmas
harder.
that
Yeah,
that we came back from a couple weeks ago. I found this
yeah,
one to be the most difficult, mentally, like mental health wise. I found this one really hard.
yeah. My wife works from home quite a bit, but she works in a hospital, so she goes in at least once or twice a week, and so she gets
Mhm.
that interaction, that break sort of thing,
Yeah.
gets away from me, which helps, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's just been me and the cats, and really yeah, I don't go to the shops that often. Like usually my groceries, I have them delivered, just so I'm not in the stores and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's like I don't interact with a lot of people, which is part of why when the clubs reopen, it's like, I'm there sort of thing,
yeah.
just to be around people, because otherwise I'm just by myself
No,
with that.
I do I do the groceries, go out and get the groceries purely for that interaction.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and it's sort of very careful interaction, but it's still at least seeing people around.
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah, like yeah.
when I like writing for comedy, I like going and sitting in a cafe and writing
Okay.
there. I don't need to be talking to people, but I need people around me. And I guess that's making it harder for me to write now because there's no one around me except the dogs who are
Right.
barking
Yeah.
like
If you're
hell.
used to having people around, yeah, that would because if your whole atmosphere has changed from what you were
Yeah,
used to, that would have an impact on
yeah,
how you
yeah, for
write.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. I don't know. I try to um like today I went to exercise, and then on the way home I had to get cat food. So like I went into the pet store
yeah,
sort of thing. But I'm in the store literally 5 minutes, because it's like I know exactly what
yeah,
I'm getting,
yeah,
and then go to the
yeah,
cash, hi, how are you? And then I'm gone. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. No,
So it's all
exactly,
quick,
exactly.
very quick interactions, but you know, I I like them. I like the interaction, and I that's a big component of what I'm missing, what I miss
Yeah, for
the
sure.
most.
And exercising, are the clubs open in Ontario?
Yeah, yeah, they opened
Wow,
a couple of weeks. Well, when everything reopened again, they opened up too.
jeez.
Yeah, because I
And
don't go to like a big gym like Good Life. I go to It's considered a rehab center, so it's very small. It's a small private thing, and I work with a trainer. So most of the
okay,
time,
great.
it's like a renovated house, and most of the time we're the only ones in
Oh,
there.
wonderful.
Yeah, so I think they have group classes, but I'm not there
Yeah.
when they have the classes, and it's in a different part of the house, of the area. But yeah, so I get that, at least that interaction with my friend and trainer 3 times a week. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, and that's usually when I
Yeah.
go outside, because otherwise
Yeah.
I'm just inside all the time
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I ride on my bike in the basement on a trainer, and that's so boring. And so I have to go for a walk. I go for a couple of walks, 2 or 3 walks a week, just to get outside,
Hmm.
and get some
Yeah.
fresh air.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. And I know they reopened the exercise room in my condo, And I keep saying I should just go down there and walk on the treadmill just to do something different. I never do it. I never do
Yeah.
it. And I always say, oh, I should just walk around outside, and I never end up doing it. I don't know what
You
it I
know,
don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like depression, or I'm like, oh, I don't want to do anything, or I'm not sure what it is.
yeah, I think it's better to walk outside than walk on a treadmill for sure. But
For
if
sure, yeah.
maybe if you have like going to get the cat's food or something, you could walk there, or I don't know if that's close by, but walk to something,
Yeah, that's
But
true. It's a little far to walk. If I was in better shape, I could walk. I could walk it. But I'm like, ooh, 3 blocks. Ooh, I can't do that. No, it's a little farther than that, and there's some hills and stuff.
oh yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna work towards doing that, because there was a point in my life when I walked everywhere. You
yeah.
know, I don't do that anymore. So yeah. So I haven't been doing as much as I don't want to say as much as I should, as much as I could, as much as I could be
Yeah.
doing, you know, because I like being inside. That's the thing.
Oh, you do. Yeah.
I do like being inside and going, oh, it looks really nice outside. I'm staying in, sort of thing. I'm an indoor person.
I'm not, but I'm not a winter person either, so that kind of cancels it out,
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Nobody wants to be outside in the winter if they
Yeah.
don't have to be. It's true. It's true.
No, no. I mean, I never saw snow till I was 24. It's like, oh, geez, this stuff's crazy.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I know. Like my father used to tell me that when he came to Canada in December, and he had never seen snow except for like in pictures and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, he said those were the days when you walked off the plane, you didn't go through like that tunnel
Right.
into the
Yeah.
terminal,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
walked off the plane down the stairs across the tarmac to the terminal. He said when he stepped out and the cold air hit him, his lips cracked.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just from the cold. And I was like, did you land in Antarctica? Like how did that happen? Where did you land? Sort of thing. But he was coming from like a tropical country to
Where from?
Canada in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
And his body went, ah! Just,
yeah. I arrived in August, and it snowed in Ottawa in September.
Oh God.
I was amazed. And the whole bunch of us were foreign students. We rented a car and rushed off to the Gatineau Park to actually see it and play with it and stuff. That was the last time we did that. But
Feel like I'm over it now.
yeah. Oh God. My roommate was from Nigeria, and we were in the residence at Carleton. Carleton got all these underground tunnels everywhere. The minute fall hit, he disappeared into the tunnels, and he never came out of those tunnels until all the snow had melted. It was wild.
He's like, no, underground.
Yeah. And what was funny, my sister came to visit once in January or something, and we had a particularly warm January. And I thought, oh my God, she's going to arrive and she's going to think that all these stories I have about the cold are fabricated, right? And luckily, the day her plane landed, it dropped down to minus 23, and I thought, yes. And the great thing, and what makes it even better is she's a smoker, and so we had to push her out and she's a chain smoker, right?
So she's outside.
Out you go. She had to go out into the snow.
She's like, can I smoke inside, please?
Nope.
Yeah, nope. Yeah, I used to smoke too, and I would go out and brave like all kinds of weather just to smoke. And yeah, I can't believe I did that. Yeah, it could be like, I don't know, raining like fireballs, and I'd be out there dodging them, but had to get my smoke in. But
oh shoot.
yeah, and I quit a long time ago, so I have a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
good.
people are very happy to see you here. Like Emil
Oh, wow.
Mansour says hi, Rory Gardner, Jeff Nixon, Jake Daly. They're all
Oh,
watching, and
fantastic.
they're very happy to see you.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Hi, guys.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say? So you came here when you were 24 and you
Yeah.
experienced snow, winter. That tell me about that because I have my parents' experience like coming to Canada from like a um, totally different country, different culture, different weather, food, plants. What was that like for you?
Well, I came here as a refugee in a bit of a hurry, so I wasn't as well prepared as I would have been had I had more time, you know.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it was a bit of a rush. Um, and when I got here, it was very strange because people would in Johannesburg, if you're walking down the street and someone's coming the other way, you greet them, you know, or people would just drop over to visit. There was none of this sort of making appointments to visit somebody and so on. So
Oh,
that sort of thing, I remember walking down the tunnels at Carlton, and someone would be coming the other way, and as they get near me, they'd look away and look at the wall as they walk by,
uh,
sort of thing. I think, "Ooh, what's wrong with me?" You know, this sort of thing. You know, it was weird stuff like that. It took me a while. Although when I moved to Halifax, I lived in Halifax for 3 years in the early '90s, and there people just behaved like normal people. They drop by to visit and
mm-hmm.
greet
Super
strangers and
friendly.
all this sort of
Yeah.
thing. Super friendly. I loved it out there.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but it took a little while to get into the Ottawa way of doing things.
Mm.
And I couldn't believe at the time the cars were humongous, these great
Oh,
big Yank tanks and stuff like that. Like,
with
oh
the
my
wasn't
God.
bucket seats. It was looked like two couches in the front and the back.
Yeah, yeah,
Just those long
exactly. Oh,
seats. And the hood of
I
the car was
couldn't.
like the length of a little car.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was like, what is all
Yeah,
this?
they're
And then,
boats.
and in the cafeteria, kids were getting into food fights, and I couldn't
Oh,
believe it. I was looking at what a waste, you know. It's just like, oh my God. So it was, and then having dessert for breakfast, like waffles and things like that. I thought, what? You have pancakes and waffles for breakfast? That's a dessert, you know. There were odd things like that, you know, and of course the pronunciation of words and stuff like that was
yeah.
often, and people often come up to me and say, "Oh, you have an accent," as if as if you know.
As
I
if
think a
they
lot of
don't have one.
Canadians I think a lot of Canadians think that they're pronouncing the words that the way they're supposed to be pronounced, and all the rest of us aren't. You know, that sort of thing. Like, oh God, you know, it took a while to sort of settle in that way, but you know, it was fine. But it just luckily I was here on scholarships and stuff, so I could make do without having a work permit. You know, so
Okay.
it was. But it was an interesting time, should we say,
Mm.
for sure, you know.
Oh, I can imagine. Because the thing is, it's like I moved when I first moved to Ontario, like I grew up in Montreal and I moved to Ontario, well, Toronto area in 2002. And that was a culture shock for me, like moving from
Yeah.
Quebec to Ontario. So I can't even wrap my brain around going from one country to another country. When I moved, 4.5 hours west, and I was like, ah, this major culture
Wow.
shock, because I remember trying to read signs that were already in English, trying to translate them to English. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand. Not realizing they're already in English, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I had,
Well,
and then I'd have people
oh, jeez.
asking me where I was from, because they're like,
Yeah.
we
Oh
can tell
God.
you're
Yeah.
Canadian, but we don't know where you're from because we've
Yeah.
never heard an accent like that before. And I'm like, accent? You know what I mean? But it was like, I guess I had a Montreal accent. And the thing is now,
Yeah.
I don't know if I just have an ear for it, but I know that I sound different than, say, my sister who's still in Montreal, or my friends who are still living in Montreal, that I used to sound like them at one point, but I don't anymore. That I've got like this hybrid
Wow.
Montreal, Toronto, or Ontario thing happening. Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I sort of noticed when I first got to Canada was in Ottawa. Ottawa was so white. It was
Still
unbelievably
is.
white, and I'd never been in a yeah, but comparatively, I'd never been in a place where white people were the majority, right? And
Really?
it was just it was so strange because it was really really white, and I thought coming to Canada was all, you know, there was no racism in Canada. I knew very little, right? And three um, there were all sorts of things, like four of us were looking for a house to rent, and two are black and two are white, and we'd phoned from the corner to see if we could come and see the house, and they said, "Oh yeah, sure, come over." And when the four of us walk up the driveway, they say, "I'm so sorry, it's just been rented." And in the end, the two of us who are white went around and found the place, and then we all moved in.
Yeah.
That sort of thing really really surprised me. It shouldn't have, but
But
but the image that Canada had in South Africa was very, very different from the reality. But it's amazing how how diverse Ottawa's
has
come over the
become. Yes.
years,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is great to see. But boy, that was a big surprise for me.
Wow. Wow. I only encountered, that I'm aware of, the housing issue. It was when my ex-husband and I we were engaged and we were looking for a place to live, and I was calling places, and my ex-husband was white. And when I called and made the appointment to see the place, let's say we were supposed to get there for like 7 o'clock. So we walk up, and the man was waiting on his balcony reading a newspaper. He wouldn't look up. Would
Oh
not look up
wow!
at us. And I knew, like, at the moment, I knew exactly what was happening. My ex didn't. So he's like,
Jeez.
"Excuse me, monsieur," like this. And I was like, "Jim, he's not going to show us the apartment. Like, let's just go." And he's like, "Well,
Wow.
wait a minute. Like, he knows we're coming. Maybe he can't hear us." I'm like, "No, this is, he doesn't want us here, or he doesn't want me here." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
sort of thing. And it was just a real, like, I'm not going to say I wasn't surprised. Like, it had never happened to me before. But I know it was like a complete, like, shock for him,
Yeah.
you
Wow.
know. And I remember he was just really bummed out, and really he was more upset than I was,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're going to run into people, people like that exist, whether you want to believe
Yeah.
it or not. People like that exist, you know. And that wasn't that long ago. That was mid 90s, in the
Wow.
mid
Yeah.
90s, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, it's it's appalling still. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it's funny
you
how,
said you fled. Was it because of the apartheid regime?
yeah, I was a naughty boy.
Oh,
Um, the and I was trying to help organize underground trade unions uh, for black workers, because at the time in the 70s, black workers weren't allowed to be in unions. So we're trying to organize underground. And I was working as a production engineer in a bicycle factory, and I was trying to organize there. And my inexperience sort of got me into trouble because I got I got caught, and so
oh no.
I got interrogated three times, and arrested three times and interrogated and all that sort of stuff. And luckily, long story, but I got offered to do my master's in engineering at Carleton in '74 when I graduated, and I turned it down because engineering is really boring. And but I then did 2 years later, after I was getting arrested and so on, my dad phoned Carlton and said, "You offered this silly bugger of a son of mine a scholarship 2 years ago. Do you still want him?" They said, "Oh yeah, I'll send him over." So my dad had me on the third time I got let out. My dad had me on a plane with a passport 2 days later, and I was gone.
Wow.
I was very lucky. So I was only
Wow.
able to go back after the end of apartheid. And we went back there for 6 years with the Canadian government. And I worked there for 6 years, and then they transferred me back, sort of thing. So,
Oh, wow. Wow. Because I guess if you had gone back before apartheid ended, you would have been arrested. You would have been thrown
that's
in
right.
jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Or
worse.
certainly interrogated,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah, lawyers told my parents that I should not, under any circumstances, come home.
Wow.
And because I also continued being active here in anti-apartheid work and other lefty sort of type things, so they didn't appreciate that.
Oh, wow.
Nor did the Canadian government, but that's a different matter.
That's a whole other story. Oh my God. Oh my God. Because I remember when it ended, like when Mandela became, because it was, I think, 88. Is it 87,
94.
88? Oh, 94.
94 was the elections. Apartheid started crumbling in about, Mandela was released in 1990, and by about 1992, a lot of the legalities had been, the laws had changed and so on, or it just, or weren't being enforced. And then 94 was the elections, and then that was the end of it. Although it's interesting that in my sense of it is that under, now the whites who got rich under apartheid are still getting filthy rich today. Middle-class blacks have done very well, but the average working class black, not a lot has changed, and that's a really big problem for me, and I had a lot of trouble with that. But anyway, that's the struggle continues.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking late 80s. I was probably mixing it up with the Berlin Wall or something, because I think that was in the late 80s.
Probably that was in the late 80s.
That was in the late 80s. Yeah, because I remember and he came to speak in Montreal, and my mom and my sister went. I don't know why I didn't go. I don't remember why I wasn't there, but I remember I was upset because my mom and my sister went and I didn't go. Me and my dad were like, "Well, why aren't we there?" I don't remember the circumstances, but my mom and I believe my sister went too. He was speaking at I think at the Olympic Stadium.
Oh wow!
Neat. In Montreal, yeah. Wow. So you said you had your granddaughter was born in June?
Yeah.
In June. And how many children do you have?
I have one. I got sent to the vet to get fixed after she was born,
Sent to the vet.
Yeah. My wife was very definite about that. Off you go, buddy, Wearing that bloody cone for 2 weeks was terrible, but otherwise it was fine, So,
Yeah, the cone of shame.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
no, so I only got the one. Yeah.
Okay. And what else? I wanted to ask you, how your style of comedy came to be. Like, did you try different styles, or did you know I want to do like a storytelling style of comedy, or was it trial and error?
I don't know. That just what came to me. I'm not a one-liner type. And comedy for me was often in the past, it was a way I would speak truth to power. So in the classroom, taking down the teacher, or at work, going after management. But I found comedy, I could do it in a way that I wouldn't get into trouble, but still get my point across, you know. But I don't know where my style came from in terms of storytelling. But I do tend to like telling stories, you know. But when I took that class at Pierre Bro, he was sort of saying, whoa, 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 you got too much information in there, cut it down, you know, and he had me writing it out, whereas normally I would just have a point form and then I would just play with the points, you know, but he made me write it and craft it and down to the very last word and stuff like that, which taught me how to cut it down a bit, you know, and get to the point better. And then David Brennan was really helpful too. And I found my trouble with storytelling, there are lots of points that I want to get in. And he was saying to me, you know, and then you're rushing it, right? And he was saying, breathe, you know, just cut some stuff out and enjoy the moment, you know, and that made a huge difference. Learning to cut stuff out, and I was talking through the laughter or talking over the laughter instead of letting it flow and then getting it, you know, and I found that really useful. And then Rob Pugh said to me once, we were talking about comedy, and he was sort of saying that when you're doing a short set, you know, like a 6 minute or whatever, you have to get to the point fairly quickly, right? But when you're doing a long set, he said, then you have to fill in to let the audience breathe. You know, you don't want to hit them for 20 minutes, you know. So you got to let them breathe as well, you know. Yeah. So, you know, those are all three different lessons that I learned that sort of helped. But I still am a storyteller. But I find it, the problem with storytelling is that, you know, I've got a whole thing on religion and on the Bible and this sort of stuff, and when the set works, it really works well. But when you have a sense that, oh, the audience is not really on board with this, I don't have an escape route because I'm in a storytelling set, you know, and I've got to figure out a way to put in some of these escape routes so that if this isn't working, I got to find a way out of here and into something else, you know.
That's true. That's true. I never
And
thought of that either.
And I haven't got there yet. I haven't, you know, I've got to start looking at some of those iffy sets like religion and trying to figure out, okay, if by this point I'm getting, you know, I remember one show, and about a third of the audience was sitting with their arms crossed when I was doing religion, and I thought, oh, and there was nowhere to go but
you just had to continue because you had no escape route, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the other thing I've learned though is, and I don't know which comic told me about this. I was doing a show at Yucks, and there was about a good third to a half of the audience that was not responding to any of the comics. And there was another part that were enjoying it, right? And this one comic said to me, ignore that other half. Focus on the ones who are enjoying it and get your energy from them. Because often when I'm doing a show and I see someone that's clearly not amused or not getting into it, I worry about that person and try and get,
you want to get them to laugh. Yeah.
You want to get them to laugh, but he's saying, no, get your energy from the people who are enjoying it, you know, and don't worry about the others, you know. So
that makes sense. That's good advice. Yeah. Because I know, like, your instinct is to be like, okay, well, these people are laughing already. These aren't, so I'm going to try and focus and get these guys laughing. When you should shift it and get these to laugh more or to keep laughing.
Well, that's where you get your energy from. I often find in shows where people aren't laughing, I lose my place and I stumble and, you know, that sort of thing.
You're exhausted too. It's exhausting. Yeah. That actually, that's really good advice. I'm going to keep that in mind too. You know, to focus where the laughs are and get the energy from there, instead of like expending energy on people who've already decided we're not laughing. Yeah. No matter what you say, we're not going to laugh.
What was your worst set ever for audience?
My worst set ever. I think it was at the very beginning at an open mic, and yeah, there was just zero, like very, very little reaction. Just people just staring back at you. Maybe a chuckle here and there, but yeah. And the thing is, I was so green at the time, I didn't know how to handle it. So I would start laughing, like they're not laughing, so I'll laugh instead. So like I'd say a punchline and nobody would react, and I go ha ha ha, and then continue. So, yeah, those are. I think it was like one of my early ones where I didn't know how to respond to no response. I didn't have the experience to deal with it, so I panicked and I would just start laughing. Just start laughing myself. But I haven't had anything horrible. I haven't had anything where it's like where I was like devastated after, fortunately.
Right.
Yeah, some go better than others, but I do remember that one where everyone was staring at me like a deer in the headlights. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
The trouble for me is that I remember the ones that went badly and not the ones that went well, And there's this great comic, Sarah Millican in the UK, and she has this rule. She says, you've got till 11 o'clock the next morning to fuss and worry about your set that you just bombed at, right?
Okay.
And then you've got to put it away. Mm-hmm. And the same works for a set that you really killed at. You've only got till 11 o'clock the next morning to enjoy it, and then you've got to move on, sort of thing. Yeah. And yeah, I try and remember that. My worst set, one of my worst ones was Yuck's got Wafik and myself to do a show at a retirement home. And we showed up, and I thought, oh, these are my peeps. I'm a retiree, they're retirees. This is going to be fun. It wasn't a retirement home. It was an assisted living home.
Oh, that's very different. That's very different.
And when we arrived there, there was a woman who was organizing. I said, what's the average age of people who are going to be here? She says, oh, about 80. And she was right. There was about 16, 17 people came in, a third of them on their walkers. And I had to do 10 minutes and Wafik had to do 15. And I started off and I got a smile or two at the beginning. And after that, it was just these blank faces for 10 minutes. Like, oh my God. Wafik at least had the good sense to try and interact with people, and get something going that way. But that was deadly, deadly. Yeah, painful.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was scary. But anyway.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, we're approaching towards the end of our hour. So would you like to answer some silly questions for me?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 62, and I'll read the corresponding question.
42.
42? Okay. So the question is, what is one thing you will never do again?
Graduate from high school?
Okay.
I'm being silly there. One thing I'll never do again. I don't know. Wow, that's a tricky question. No, I can't think of offhand. I want to have a kid again, but no, I'm trying to think of the things that I did badly,
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily have to be something that was bad. It could be something that you're just like, that wasn't for me. Not doing that again. It doesn't have to be. I don't. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be something that you regret or something like that. If that makes it any easier.
I think I suffer badly from motion sickness, so I try not to fly in small planes anymore.
Okay.
Big planes are fine because they get above the turbulence, but the small planes,
Yeah, you feel everything in
I
a
chuck
small
my
plane.
cookies every time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I have like balance issues, so yeah, a small plane is very uncomfortable.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So let's try another one.
The things I regret saying. Okay,
Yes.
sure. Number 3.
Number 3. Okay. If you were the CEO of a company, name one thing you would make compulsory in the office and one thing you would ban from the office.
Compulsory that we form a union, that everyone becomes part of a union, and banned from the office. The wearing of any formal wear, ties and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, let's do one final one.
17.
17. Okay. What is the one thing that you believe to be true that very few others do? These are really deep questions.
That capitalism sucks. I think a lot of people believe that, but not enough.
Yeah, I think so too. And we're like stuck in it too. So
yeah, well, yeah. I know what it is. It's revolution is the only solution.
Revolution is the only solution.
Is the only solution. Yeah, that's what I don't think enough people believe.
Right. Very interesting. Yeah, these weren't lighthearted questions. These were kind of deep. These were kind of deep.
I chose the wrong numbers.
No worries. But thank you so much for joining me today. This was lovely to talk to you. And it was some of the things you were talking about were fascinating, and I'm really glad you're able and willing to share that with us.
No, that's a lot of fun. Thanks very much, and I look forward to chatting to you more informally elsewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like our listeners and viewers to know about? Like, are you performing anywhere? Are you doing any shows? Any upcoming shows or anything like that?
I don't think I'm. Not in the next little while. I've got I'm just looking at my calendar here. I've got one on the 25th. That's one of the FU to the pandemic shows.
Oh, yes. Luke
I got another one of those. Luke Lund, yes. Yeah. But that's the only one I've got in the next little while.
All right. Yeah, I'm doing his show next Saturday, I think. Saturday, end of the week. Because I think he's doing, his goal is to do 50 in March. Yeah. And I think the day, like on show days, he has 3 running.
Yeah, he's 7, 8, 9, and 11 show.
And 11, yeah.
Crazy.
So I think the last one I did was at 9, and the upcoming one is at 7.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for me. I did 9, and then I'm doing 7. Yeah.
So I was like, please don't put me at 11. That's too late. That's like the middle of the night.
Yeah. I met him in Thunder Bay. at a competition there.
Oh, really? I've never met him in person.
Comedian of the North. Yeah.
Oh, yes. That contest has gone online now.
Yeah, not nearly.
online. I'm
That
working
doesn't
on
sound
putting
like
a
it'll be
submission.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to send in a 5 minute set, a 5 minute
yeah, I've got
submission.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I think the deadline is the 28th of March. So yeah, I've got to get on that and submit
It
it.
was fun going up there, and there was
Hmm.
something like on the first night there was something like 450 people in the audience, and on the second night there were 550,
Wow.
and
Wow.
performing to people in that venue was just great. Except
Wow.
5 minute sets are just too short for me.
It's
I
so
don't like
short.
that
Yeah.
short. I like longer sets, but
Yeah, I like
anyway,
longer sets. I like
yeah,
seven set, like say 8 to 10, I think is
yeah, yeah,
ideal. It's not too long, it's not too short, but yeah, five. You're just getting warmed up at five.
yeah,
Five is
yeah,
short.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
five is really short, Five is short. But so thank you again. And
Oh, thanks a lot. It
I'd love to have you
was a lot of
back
fun.
anytime you want to come back. I'd love
Great,
to have you
thanks.
back. And
And look forward to seeing you in the flesh
same,
soon.
same, same. Instead of just like through a computer screen. I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanking
And
you.
and stay safe. Stay
You
safe and we'll
too.
see each other
Thanks.
soon. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye
Bye.
everybody. See you next time.
Bye. Oh.